You're probably wondering where I am. What is that behind you? Well, this is a lighthouse behind me, and I'm in Lamberts Bay.
Always on my mind, the secret ship from me. You know how I feel with my man at sea. I got the blues.
Well, what's the significance of Lamberts Bay? Well, I grew up here. This is my hometown. And also this camera is a Voigtlander Bessa 1 from, so far I've figured out, about 1929. And the reason this is significant to Lamberts Bay, I bought this camera randomly from a classified ad in Cape Town, only to find out later that the original owner is actually a guy that I knew in school. It used to belong to his grandfather, and this camera is actually from Lamberts Bay. Or this is where the original owner used it all his life. And so I am going to use this camera for the first time in Lamberts Bay. But not just that, I am going to be using 120 film that expired in 1994. So that should be exciting. Anyways, if you're wondering about the sound, I didn't bring my lapel mic with me on this trip, and so I'm recording the sound on my phone. So if the sound's not fantastic, I do apologize. But anyway, so this is the Voigtlander Bessa 1 from 1929. The lens says it's an Anastigmat Voigtar F2.8 Braunschweig. And you have the options of shooting landscapes, groups, and portraits according to the aperture settings. So here I have Ilford XP1 400. So it's black and white film for the C41 chemical process. So you can use it in normal color chemistry, basically, that's what it means. I know I have used these before, these 1994 expiration date ones. And so I do know that they lose quite a bit of their sensitivity. And you probably need to rate them as 100 ISO, even less, maybe like 80 ISO. I found that to be more or less accurate, so I'll probably just shoot it as 100, and hopefully I can recover whatever there is in the scans. But yeah, let's try and load this camera. I'm not 100% sure how light tight the camera is. I'm hoping for the best. We are loaded. So how I will be doing the metering is at 100. I know I'm shooting at either F22, F11 or F7.7. Let's see how it goes. I'll just use the light meter app that I have on my camera, and I will just get readings from that.
My man's on the ocean, bobbing up.
Well, we'll see if I got anything remotely like that, obviously in vertical format.
My mind, the secret ship from me. You know how I feel with my man at sea. I got the blues.
Timing the wave.
Blue sea.
Let's see what happens.
Can satisfy me. No one more.
Peppermint.
My mind, I feel like getting on aeroplane and fly.
So after getting back to Cape Town, I had the film processed, normal C41 process, rated the processing normal, no pushing or pulling, because I already rated the exposure at 100 ASA, except the film is 400, so it's a two-stop rating push that I gave it. And if you have a look at the first image of the lighthouse, you can, and this is unedited, this is a straight scan. And if you have a look at the negatives as well, you'll see that the emulsion is obviously has deteriorated a lot. It's very low contrast, seems to have very low sensitivity. And I think the scan itself was pushed a little bit just to get that detail there. And this is no fault of the camera, this is obviously the film. Just sort of a quick observation, as you can see in the left hand corner, there seems to be some sort of ghosting, and I know that's from the camera because it's like a haze, because it's also evident in other images. But what I did is I took all the images into Photoshop and I just did a levels adjustment. I just the shadows and the highlights, I just compressed those a little bit so you can get more contrast. And so the next images that you'll see was actually done with a setting. All the images are quite thin. What I mean by that is that the negatives don't have a lot of information in them. So now, once we have the contrast pushed up a little bit, we notice a lot of issues coming up, among of them with dust specks. This could be on the film, but you'll also notice there's it seems like vertical streaks. And that is often a case with film that has been stored for years and years, and then once it's put into process, the film has almost like little buckles in them, and that can influence the agitation process, so that some areas of the film actually get a little bit more chemical contact and agitation on those areas, and you don't get an even development on those film, especially through a commercial machine processing system. You might have a little bit of that happening. That could be the situation there. A quick mention also is that it's not sharp. Again, you have view focus because you're guessing, the distance. But I was shooting as far as I can, just at infinity. It is not sharp. But what is a case with this camera is that the lens standard, or the front standard at the bellows, is slightly damaged, so it doesn't sit 100% straight, so it's not 100% parallel to the film plane, which will create issues when you shoot. So I had to use my thumb just to keep the bellows in place and to try and keep the film plane in the correct spot. Right, so with this image, one can see that it's slightly sharper. We've got a nice frozen movement, and it's generally a bit sharper. Now, I had the camera stabilized. I put it on the harbor wall. That might have something to do with it as well. My focus guessing was maybe a bit better, and at maximum aperture or minimum aperture, it does seem to be quite sharp for what it is. What I have to say is, with all the images, the exposures seem to be very consistent. I was taking readings with my phone with an app that is in turn actually quite accurate. I've tested it, and I've set this camera according. And what that suggests to me is that the aperture is accurate. It is a 7.7 aperture, and which means that mechanism is still functioning very well, and the shutter seems to be firing at the shutter speed it should be. It's not varying, which means those little springs and things, the mechanism is still in very good condition. So that would suggest that if I was to use proper film that's not 40 years old almost, I could get some very good results. So I'm looking forward to doing that. So that concludes my little experiment, and this was not done according to scientific method. Everything I say here should be taken as anecdotal, and yeah, it's definitely worth it to do something like this if you have access to an old camera and some old film. And I look forward to putting some brand new color film through this camera and see what one gets. Anyways, thank you very, very much for watching this video all the way to the end, and please consider subscribing, liking this video, all that stuff, and I will see you in the next one.
but one man in this world.